a very nice crowd today. Do want to thank you for coming. In behalf of Molly Wasco and HEP, I think you'll really enjoy the session today. It's part of a series that we do called the HEP Educational Series. And today's webinar is entitled, as you can all see, Getting the Data You Need to Show Placement Outcomes. Just a few administrative details. We do have over 30 webinars on our website, several on career services, and a lot on matching gifts. They're really good for tips and ideas and, of course, training of staff. You do have a few responsibilities. If you get knocked off for any reason, you simply need to, just dial back in or click on the link you used initially. The presenters all do have cell phones in case we run into any problems. And you do have a place on the menu where you can ask questions. And we'll look forward to those. We'll try to answer those as we can, certainly at the end if we can't get them in between. We'll not be working you too hard. I'd like to introduce Dr. Molly Wasco. She's an associate professor and chair of the Department of Management, Information Systems, and Quantitative Methods at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. She teaches primarily strategic information technologies, and Dr. Wasco is also the Chief Technology Officer for InDegree, a division of HEP Data, and she's responsible for overseeing sales, operations, and research and development. So without further ado, Molly?
Very good. Thanks, John, and thanks to you guys for joining us today. So it's my pleasure to get to talk to you. So as John said, my background is I have been a professor in higher education for the past 15 years, and my area of expertise, my PhD, is actually in management information systems. And one of the things that I've discovered in working at the business school is all of us on campus have a very hard time maintaining connections with our alumni once they graduate. And so from the perspective of the academic unit, this makes it very difficult because we often have students that come to us and are looking for career advice. So they'll ask me, do we have anybody at Disney? My dream job's at Disney. But oftentimes we don't have data on folks. And so leveraging my technology background and advances in social media, I've been working with our career services to try and find better solutions to get outcomes data for our students. So quickly, just to go over the agenda for today, I'm going to talk a little bit about what is LinkedIn and why LinkedIn should be relevant to you. So LinkedIn is one of the main data sources we use to try and track outcomes. I'm going to go over the HEP Data Career Services Solutions, so let you know a little bit about how we can help and how we've used it here at UAB. We're going to talk a little bit about setting up a tracking process for your university if you don't have one in place, and then I'll go over some great tools for actually using LinkedIn as part of your career services offerings. So first off, what is LinkedIn? LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. It currently has over 259 professional resumes posted out there on LinkedIn. There are over 3 million companies on LinkedIn, so it's a great resource for students on campus to leverage as part of their job search. There are over 60,000 college and university alumni groups, over 30,000 students in recent grads, and it's this part of the market that's really growing fastest for LinkedIn. So trying to increase the number of basically newly placed college students and recent grads. One of the interesting things about LinkedIn is 64% of the profiles of professionals are actually outside of the United States, so it's a great source for tracking international alumni if you have international programs. There's over 150 industries represented and executives from every Fortune 500 company. Another thing to note, recently LinkedIn opened up its user agreement to include kids 14 years and older, so they're trying to actually leverage LinkedIn not only at the university phase, but even before students reach campus as a tool for them to actually look at different college programs. So why should it matter to you? So I typically ask my audience, raise your hand if you have an updated page with your alma mater. Typically people go in and self-report about 25 to 30% of the time. But if I ask, raise your hand if you have an updated LinkedIn profile, we typically see 80 to 90%. And so in terms of being able to track outcomes and figure out where our alumni have gone, LinkedIn is a really good source. So the need for better employment data. So one of the issues we run into is the majority of our students don't actually have a job at the time of graduation, and this is something we're working very actively to try and change. When I talk to students in the classroom, they tell me often that, oh, I'm sprinting to graduation, then I'll worry about looking for a job. What we're trying to do is get them to leverage the resources to find a job while they're still on campus and think about this not as a sprint to graduation, but the beginning of their careers. And so most of us have exit surveys that we conduct on campus, but that information is just good for that point in time. And also many of us struggle with trying to get good response rates from the students who are on campus. About 63% of your students will have a job at 6 months out. The problem with that, though, is follow-up surveys are difficult. As soon as our students do land that first job, they dump their .edu email address, adopt their company address, and so reconnecting with them after 6 months is very, very hard. Also, employment statistics suggest that the unemployment rate for college graduates is actually less than 5%. So 6 months out, if we're only getting 63% reporting in, where's that gap? And finally, for graduate school data, about 22% of students say they go on to graduate school, but finding out whether students actually did enroll in a graduate program is also something hard to track. So would we do a better job if we could? Of course. The problem is we can't rely on alumni to update information through self-report. And current methods of trying to track employment are incredibly expensive, they're manually intensive and prone to error. So trying to find better ways to actually provide this service. So the key thing we're all faced with is how do we stay connected with our students once they graduate? And so this is how HEP data can help. So if you provide us with a list of students you want us to try and track, what we do is we match that information to a LinkedIn profile and other social media sources and data sources. Then what we do is we combine the two sources of data for you and give it back to you so you can do alumni tracking and analytics. Here's what we typically find. So for recent graduates, we can typically find about half of your student population out there on LinkedIn. And of course, the percentages drops as your alumni base ages. So if you give us a list of people who graduated in the 70s, then chances are we'll only find about 26%. But in terms of a tool for tracking recent graduates, LinkedIn is pretty effective. So what we do is we start with your alumni data. So we need the student's name. We like knowing which college or school they came from, what their degree is. So is it a BS, a BA, an MBA, what their major was, the year they graduated, and then their address if you have it in an email. The more data you can give to us, the better chances we are of being able to match. Also, we like to take only non-FERPA protected directory data so there aren't any issues with privacy. And so here are the fields we actually match to on a LinkedIn profile. So what we'll do is we'll do a search for the person, and what we'll bring back for you is their current location, the current industry they work in, their LinkedIn URL, so you have a way to reconnect with them, their current position, employer, dates employed, and we also pull back education from this education field so we can track people who've gone on to graduate school. We return this data to you guys in an Excel file so you can easily upload it into your current systems, add it to your exit survey data. You can do whatever you need to provide the analytics you need. In terms of pricing, we base the pricing on the number of people we can actually find for you. And so our pricing rate is 50 cents per match. There is a minimum file requirement of $750, so we recommend that you send us about 3,000 records to reach that minimum amount. This is a one-time search that we do for you at a certain point of time. And since we've launched this service last fall, we have 25 universities that we've already run 6 months out data for. And we have 22 universities overall who are clients. So up until last fall, our primary focus has been tracking alumni for alumni services, but then we are branching out into career services as well because you guys have the same needs. And of course, you know, if you run this data with us and you want to keep doing this yearly to get automated updates on your graduates, we can talk to you about a license agreement. So key things to consider that's part of our service. The first thing is privacy. So what we do is we take non-FERPA protected directory data and we match it to publicly available information that's out there on the web. We do not contact your alumni to ensure their confidentiality. You maintain full control over the data, so what we do is we return the data to you in a format that's reusable, but we don't repurpose the data, we don't sell it to other people, we delete the data after we run a demo. And then compliance, the methods we use to tap into information are in full compliance with LinkedIn's terms of use. So in terms of how this can help, proven solutions for NACE. So when you're filling out your annual surveys with NACE, what we can help you with is finding out the percent with full-time employment at graduation, percent with full-time employment at follow-up survey, the percent enrolled as full-time students in graduate or professional schools, the percent in military service. And then, of course, the responses are analyzed and reported for individual academic programs as well as majors, as long as you give us the list with the school and degree and major information. So as of yet, we can get you back the job title, employer name, industry, and location, but we don't have a salary solution currently, but it's something that we're constantly working with you guys to try and come up with an automated solution, and hopefully within the next year we'll be able to have some type of service in place that will get its salaries. So just to give you an idea of some of the results, this is my university, so I work very closely with our career services office. And what we found in 2013, so we have an exit survey that we have here on campus. So before our students leave, we try to get them to fill out the exit survey. Our exit survey is actually voluntary, so what we do is we beg them, we have it as part of the classroom. And you can see the number responding. We were able to get 690 completed surveys out of 3,956. So the total response rate on our exit survey was 17%. Now we have seen tremendous variation in the response rate on exit surveys depending on the policies you have at your university. Some universities are really good at getting very high response rates. So out of the 690 that reported in on the exit survey, we only had 262 that had job information. And so for us, 38% of respondents had a job. However, if you add in the non-respondents, that we only had data on about 6% of the total in terms of job information. So what we did is we ran our alumni through the HEP data matches after they graduated. So this was our 6 months out results. And HEP data was able to bring in an additional 1,386 graduates. So we were able to capture 35% of all graduates. Some interesting stats. So we were able to match 79% of the, or 79 jobs to the survey. So what they told us in the survey was correct. We added 1,177 new positions that we weren't able to capture in the survey. There were 153 jobs that were reported in the survey but that we could not find or rematch on LinkedIn. And then we found 27 positions where the students had given us a job in the survey but actually had changed jobs since then. So this gives you a sense of the type of data we can return to you, and for us a typical match rate is anywhere between 35 and 70% depending on your alumni base. So in terms of setting up a process to track grads, here's something that we recommend. So right now all of us are thinking about or in the process of collecting that exit survey data. That if you sign up with HEP to screen the data, we recommend doing it right after graduation so we can see is there anything we can add to that information you collected through the exit survey. We also recommend rescreening it 6 months out. So when this process, what you do is the ones that you don't have data on, give that to us. Then if we can find them on LinkedIn, then when you have step 4, which is an email or phone campaign to try and follow up on missing persons, hopefully we'll be able to knock out a lot of that list for you. If you track all 3 semesters that you have graduates, so May grads, summer grads, and winter grads, what we recommend is for a May screening to include your May non-respondents and your December grads, because that'll give you 6 months out on your December grads. And then as well, when we do the 6 months out on May grads, include your summer grads and see if we can add additional information. And then if you have an end of the year email or phone campaign to follow up on missing persons, include the people you don't have data on. So here's a sample impact matrix that you can use as part of your career services. So what you want to do is try and track the effectiveness of each one of the methods you use to collect data. So for instance, we have an exit survey, the type of activities, the data you're trying to collect, things like job title, employer, salary, did they go on to grad school. Typical matrix would be overall response rate, the percentage that are employed, your average salary, percentage that go on to grad school. If you include the HEP data screen, the activities you'll get back, the data, job title, employer, grad school, dates employed. So what you want to do there is have metrics like match rate, once again percent employed, percent that go to grad school, and percent that were already employed at graduation. So because we capture those dates that they've had that job, we can tell you these people were working at the time of graduation, so they weren't seeking another full-time job. Then there's a 6-month follow-up, very similar. We can pull job title, employer, or this is the activities the campus does trying to actually reconnect with the alumni. So as part of that, job title, employer, salary data, grad school, and then you want to be able to assess the overall success of all of your methods. And so you want the overall percentage tracked, overall percent that are employed, average salary, percent that go to grad school, and then changes or improvements since last year. And these slides will be available for you guys to download, so if you're looking for putting a process in place with impact metrics, you're welcome to take the slides and repurpose for whatever your needs are. So I'm going to pause here for a few minutes to see if we have any questions about the services.
Yeah, you can send in your questions. There should be a chat box there, and you can send in your questions to Molly.
So with no questions coming in, I'm going to keep going, but feel free to just type in questions as they occur to you, and then we can field them. We'll pause throughout the presentation to answer things.
Here we go, Molly. I got one here. Do you offer any webinars or sessions for students to begin accessing LinkedIn prior to graduation?
So that is a great question. The next part of this presentation is going to go through how to build an effective LinkedIn profile. We do not currently offer student webinars for you, but you are welcome to take these slides and have training sessions for your students as part of your career services offerings. Also included in the presentation will be a set of resources. So you are welcome to actually tap into some of the resources that LinkedIn currently provides to help students get signed up. One of the things that LinkedIn has been very effective with is providing videos and making it simple to sign up for a profile and giving best practices and tips. Another thing, if you're interested and that will be available, is one of the things we've done here at UAB in the business school is we've made creating a profile, a LinkedIn profile, part of our assignments for our entry-level business course in the School of Business. So we actually are able to track now about 70% of our business school grads because we get them signed up as soon as they come onto campus. We have them revisit that LinkedIn profile as part of their business communications class, which they typically take about junior year. So by the time they are looking for a job, they already have that professional presence set up. So this is a challenge that we cannot track them on LinkedIn if they're not out there. And so here's some tips and tricks to how to effectively integrate LinkedIn features as part of your career services offerings. John, were there any more questions before I go on?
Yes, yeah, there is several more actually. And is LinkedIn the only social media site researched by HEP? We actually use lots of sources to come up with the employment information, including large biographical databases of like 60 million bios. We also use federal and state data. Think of like Federal Election Commission data, where employer is and the name of the donor is available. So we use lots of sources to, LinkedIn is not the only source, but it is an important source and one of the big three in social media. The other question, Molly, was a question about what about smaller schools that might not have 3,000 students?
So one of the things we recommend is actually partnering with your Alumni Services Office, and so not just giving us your recent graduates, but give us a larger pool of alumni, because they can also use this data as part of maintaining strong alumni communities. This data is also very important to your academic units. So for instance, we have to maintain an accreditation here in the business school which requires reporting on specific outcomes by major. And so, you know, if you're a small school that doesn't have that many graduates per year, go ahead and send us a larger data set that includes your alumni.
Okay. Okay, Molly, I think you can go ahead and proceed.
All right, so getting students to actually sign up. So building a profile is incredibly easy. So as I said before, LinkedIn has made it very simple to get people to sign up. So you go to the landing page for LinkedIn and it says, you know, get started, it's free. So one of the things you want to be sure and coach students is when they fill out their LinkedIn profile and use that email address, that it is a professional email address or their .edu email address. That a lot of times students will have email addresses that aren't necessarily professional, and so we encourage them to actually leverage an email that, you know, that helps signal professionality over social. LinkedIn also does a great job of walking you through the steps for how to create a profile. So, you know, very simple, just say where you live, you're currently employed, and then whenever possible, use these drop downs. So, you know, typing in the name of a company, if it shows up in the list, go ahead and try and click on what's in the list and encourage them not to just free-form type, because these if it's part of a drop-down, it also hyperlinks to a network so you can tap into everybody who has a profile within that organization. It's going to try and get you to actually grab all of your email contacts out of your email server. Go ahead and encourage them to skip this step because it might not be who they want professional connections with. You have to confirm your email address to make sure it's valid. And once that's done, they're going to try and grab your email contacts again. Typically, we encourage them to skip this step. And then LinkedIn will try and recommend some connections for the student to help start building this profile. It'll allow you to announce to your Facebook and Twitter connections that you have a LinkedIn profile. It's going to ask you what type of account. Just sign up for a free account. The basic services are fabulous. And then LinkedIn will take you to a page that will prompt them about, here are the other things that you need to do to build out that profile. So it's a very simple wizard that takes them through, all right, let's add your experience, let's add your education, add a photo, skills, expertise, details. So the process is very, very simple. One of the things when they're filling out their education profile, make sure that they sign up for the correct university. So you might have to give them some guidance here. So you can see if you type in Florida State University, there are actually 4 different options. And so it could be the College of Business, Law, Medicine, or the university as a whole, depending on where you want them to sign up. So I'm not sure if your university has a strategy for how to leverage these different pages, but what we have found typically with the universities that are our clients, if they have these multiple options, about half of the college business graduates will be in this network and about half will be in this network. So it would be very helpful as you get them to sign up as part of Career Services to give them guidance which university affiliation you want them to have. So you want to encourage them to add a professional headshot that you're 7 times more likely to be viewed with a professional photo. One of the issues is our students don't necessarily always have a professional headshot. So one of the things that we do as part of Career Services, when we have career fair days, we have a photographer there. So the students are already dressed up and look good, and we provide free headshots for them so they can load it up onto their LinkedIn profile. A tendency for our students is to take a selfie with their cell phone and load it up, which doesn't always have the professional presence that would best serve them. You want students to actually customize their headline, so that's the second area under their name. So the default is going to be your job title or student at, but this is something that they can edit, and you want something that stands out, just not part of the norm. You want to encourage them to create a custom LinkedIn URL. So when you sign up, LinkedIn will generate a URL for the student, but encourage them to edit so it's more aligned with their name, so they're easier to find. And then this is a new area, this Get Discovered, and it's perfect for students because they can upload all kinds of work that they've done as part of their career or their on-campus experience. So they can upload some of the documents, some of their projects, some presentations, some videos, and it's a way to really show off their talents in multiple formats. LinkedIn will then tell you what else is recommended for your profile. It'll also give you, your profile is 56% complete, and will encourage you to fill in additional information. And so that's all. It takes about 10 minutes for them to get started. So top 10 students' do's and don'ts when you're working with students. Once again, make sure that they use a professional email address, their .edu email address, and also they can link it to their personal email account. And so encouraging them to do both is very useful in case they can't carry their .edu email with them after graduation. Encourage them to use proper business English, so not just the way they text. Encourage them to upload a professional image. If they don't have a professional image, they should have none. So they're better off with nothing than having a selfie out there. Encourage them to create a compelling headline, not student at, because there are hundreds of people who just use the default. Encourage them to list a current position if they have it, and at least 2 past positions. Have them complete the summary section of the profile. In the summary section, you want to encourage them to have a short paragraph and use bullet points. This is not a place for them to post an essay about themselves. Encourage them to complete their specialties and interests section. Have them go out and seek recommendations from their professors or maybe from their internship director or other people they've worked with. Encourage them to join groups, especially your alumni group or the groups that are out there related to professional industry experience. And then encourage them to use the Get Discovered feature so they can show off a portfolio of their work. Any questions about building a profile?
Yep, we got a few.
Okay.
What's an example of a compelling headline? Not student, but that's from Deidre.
So it could be something like talented higher education professional. It could be aspiring psychology professional. And if you go out onto the LinkedIn resources page, you'll see examples of what makes a really good headline. But something that is succinct and then highlights specific skills or qualifications, and that just separates them from the crowd, which is just student at.
Okay. And we got another question here from Greg. How sensitive is the search process to variations in data? For example, a student who is listed in college records as James Richards, but on LinkedIn is listed as Jim Richards.
So LinkedIn actually will search for all the popular variations of a name. So James will actually pull up Jims and different variations, Jimmys. We also encourage you to give us the middle name. So a lot of times students will not go by their first name but their middle name, and we can search on that as well. So the match process is pretty good at picking up different variations of names. For women, there's a place in LinkedIn where you can complete your maiden name. So when they graduate, if they're single, they'll have a maiden name, but that may switch to a married name after a year or two. So we can, if it's there's unmarried name in your records, and we do a search on it, it will actually pull up the profile with a married name.
Yeah, that's all the questions I have so far.
Very good. So what's in it for the student? So, you know, a lot of us feel skeptical about pushing our students onto a service and making them use something that's not university related. So why is it in the student's interest to actually go out and have a LinkedIn profile? So the benefits for students, it's the place on the web to build a professional online presence. Most employers now recognize that there is a difference between a social presence and a professional presence. So for a social presence, that's the purpose of Facebook, but this gives students an opportunity to actually start separating their professional life from their social life. They are able to add connections with professional contacts, so if you can get them early while they're on campus to start building that network is going to be incredibly useful to them when they try and land a job. So for instance, in our programs, we have a lot of networking events with local professionals. We encourage them to link up with those professionals, so as they're going through their job search, if there's an open position at the company, they can see how they're connected to that position through their network. It is a great tool to research companies, industries, and grad schools, so it's very useful for them if they have a target area or a target company to leverage LinkedIn to get up-to-date news and information about that. They can use LinkedIn to apply directly for jobs. They can learn about industry and company trends, and then they can explore opportunities for undecided students. So if you have a group of students at the sophomore level that really aren't sure yet what their major should be, they can leverage LinkedIn to check out the career paths of people who have gone before them and what type of opportunities there are. So really there's a lot of benefits for students to learn how to leverage LinkedIn as part of building this professional presence. So this is Facebook. Most of our students, 90% of our students, come to us already with a Facebook presence. This is a social online presence. This is what you do to maintain connections with your high school friends, with your family, to post, what you've done on your picnic, when you go to the beach. This is a professional online presence, and once again, that it's becoming widely recognized that you need both, that Facebook is not going to be able to substitute for having a professional presence. And of course, there's different etiquette for how you behave on the different social networks. And so encouraging students to view LinkedIn not as a social presence, so you don't want to post what you had for breakfast that day on an update in LinkedIn. Keep that in your social presence. You don't want to update photos of you at the beach on your LinkedIn profile. Keep that for Facebook. So students typically need some coaching on how to add connections in LinkedIn. So a good guidance is friends and family. Those are Facebook friends. So when it comes to professors and advisors, those are LinkedIn connections. So I am much more comfortable if a student comes to me and requests a connection on LinkedIn than I am a Facebook friend, because I want to keep that professional distance with the students. So when it comes to professors, advisors, people they've worked with, those are LinkedIn connections, not their Facebook friends. They can use LinkedIn to research companies. So as we discussed before, there are tens of thousands of companies that have profiles out there on LinkedIn. And so if students have a target company that they want to go look for, they can search for that company page on LinkedIn and use it as a tool to do research. They can actually follow a company page, which allows updates from the company to actually show up on their homepage. They can get information and delve into new industry insights. They can actually see how they have connections to the company. So if they're interested in landing a job there, they can see, here are the people who could possibly help me. And then they can easily check out open positions and apply for them directly from a company page. So when you check out jobs on LinkedIn, very detailed job descriptions that help students identify interesting areas of careers. Also, it typically includes the contact, who's the person that posted the position, estimated salary information and connection information, and then direct students to similar jobs that other people have viewed. So this is a really valuable feature as well. So people who looked at this job also viewed these jobs. So students can actually go through and see, here are jobs that are similar that they might not have considered. Another thing, students can apply directly through LinkedIn. And so this is a feature that we are seeing used more and more, especially by big employers, that they are not taking paper-based resumes. What they want is they want students to apply for a job directly through LinkedIn. And by doing so, it gives the company an electronic version of the resume, which is standardized across applicants and very easy for them to actually search and do analytics on. If they don't want to apply for the job, they can save it to a folder, and so they can go through and scan for jobs they might be interested in and then come back at a later time to actually complete the applications. So it is a fabulous tool for students who are seeking jobs and you want the ability to apply directly. And as I mentioned, LinkedIn profiles are really starting to outpace resumes as the preferred form of contact with employers. And so doing what we can at the university to be able to get them started. Another thing, what we're doing on our campus, you can actually download the LinkedIn profile in a resume format. So what we encourage students to do is build it out on LinkedIn, perfect it, and then print it out in resume format, and then maybe add some formatting to it. So if they need to have a paper-based resume, leverage that LinkedIn profile, which they've already created, and then they can go ahead and generate the paper-based. Another thing students can do is they can learn about industry trends. So your computer science students can actually track, here's what happens in the industry. This is important not only for being able to talk to a prospective employer in an interview, but it's also very useful in terms of the types of information they can bring into their classes. There's lots of ways to track news, to track influencers, and then get cutting-edge information that once again will really help them stand out in class by having LinkedIn actually funnel news directly to them. So right now they may be used to reading their Facebook updates, 3 or 4 times in class, but encouraging them to switch that over to LinkedIn so they can start generating that professional channel. Another feature that LinkedIn has recently come out with is the university page. And so not only are there employer pages out there and available on LinkedIn, but there's also university pages. And so what this does, it helps your current students tap into an alumni network to find job placements where people have gone before and to connect with alumni who are actually in positions that they might want to follow in the footsteps of. So for the university page, there's some great features. So first of all, make sure that your university has a university page. And so you just go to linkedin.com/edu and it'll step you through how to create your university page. The nice thing about the university page is you can use it as a communications platform to reach students, alumni, and then other people who are followers. So in order to find a university page, you can just use the search feature. The university is also a hyperlink in the education profile. So if you have a student that wants to see what's happened to alumni, all they have to do is click on the university name in their education profile, and it will take them directly to that university page. The university page allows you to upload your logo and a campus photo, so you can brand it the way you want. It allows you to see where alumni have gone. So what LinkedIn does behind the scenes is it actually aggregates the profiles of the people who have your university name in their education profile. And then these bars are hyperlinks. So if you have someone who's interested in going to Lockheed Martin, the student, all they have to do is click on this bar and it will show them the 509 profiles specifically of the people employed at Lockheed Martin. It automatically makes alumni followers of your page, which is nice, so you don't have to make sure all of your alumni are in your group now. They will follow your page and be able to get the updates that you make to your page. It highlights notable alumni for you, so it goes out and tracks and identifies here's some influencers in industry that might be of interest. It allows you to post the stats on your university, and once again, so opening up LinkedIn to 14 through 18-year-olds, these students in high schools are actually leveraging LinkedIn to do research about your university to actually make decisions on where they want to go to college. So it's turning into a recruiting tool for prospective students, not just a placement tool for your existing students. It provides the followers of your university with a platform of exchange, and so your followers can post to that LinkedIn page and generate conversation. It allows you to feature your official groups. So if your university has groups, alumni groups out there on LinkedIn, and you want to direct people specifically to a certain group, then this is a great place to highlight that. It connects the different schools within the university. So if you recall, that university drop-down in the education field, there were 4 different versions. That means there are 4 different types of pages out there for the University of Maryland. So at this home, the University of Maryland, they can connect the different schools that they have within this one page. So it's a way to help you guys organize some of these pages that may be out there, and you want to direct students to the right one. Additionally, prospective students will be able to see similar schools to yours. So if they do research on your page, they'll be able to click and see here are other schools that they might be interested in. So once again, as I described, the separate school college pages, those are nice because it allows you to segment comments. So we have a separate business school page from our university page, and we use the business school page to actually discuss here are the latest trends in business. If you have a School of Health Professions, the type of updates they provide on that page will be different from what's relevant to the people in the business school. So once again, having a LinkedIn strategy for your university where you have a university page, but then consider building out pages for each of your schools. Yes. So pause here. Questions about student resources?
Yes, we have several. This is a more general question, but the question from Steve is, what protections are in place for the uploaded portfolio items?
So similar to any protections that you have uploaded, that people will be able to view them. People will probably be able to download them. So in terms of information that they want to keep private or copyrighted or not spread, probably putting it out there on a LinkedIn profile is not going to be a good idea.
Okay. Next question. This is a LinkedIn question from Becca. Do you have any advice to career services professionals on accepting invitations from students in the career services employees professional profile? Ultimately, well, there's a little bit more. Hold on. Ultimately, I would like to drive students to the career services LinkedIn page, but that has not been developed yet. So does the CS employee accept student requests or leave them pending for the future CS LinkedIn?
That is up to you. So the way the user agreement works with LinkedIn, it's an individual has an individual page. You're only supposed to have one LinkedIn profile, not multiple LinkedIn profiles. This is your tool to create your professional network. So if you use it to link to students, then you will not be able to leverage it specifically for your professional connections. So keep that in mind. And one of the issues you may run into is if you change jobs, will those connections to students still be relevant for you? Probably not. So are you going to go through and unconnect with all of those people? That's going to be difficult. But if you want those students connected to you as part of your job as career services, that's perfectly legitimate.
Okay, got another couple of questions here, Mal. In the data that we provide back, HEP provides back from the matching employer find, is there information about when the last time a graduate's profile was updated?
No, we cannot get that data. So all we can get is the forward-facing public data. So the closest date that we can get for you is that dates employed. So when they say, yes, I started my job here and it runs through present.
Yeah, but I'll add a little to that. The policy we try to do, because we've got a lot of sources we use for we restricted to something within the last several years, usually 2.5 years or so is what we will not give you anything older than that, just because it's, we think it has a potential for not being that accurate. So we usually don't provide stuff that we feel is any older than that. Okay, and I think, let's see, I think that's about it. Anybody else have any other questions before we, I think that's...
Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So this last slide is just resources that you can use. So LinkedIn actually has a resource site for higher education. That's this top link. This is where you would go to build your university page. They have specifically a student resources site that has videos, walkthroughs, advice for how to create the perfect headline. Here's the alumni tool that students can use to try and track and do research on alumni from their programs. There's an FAQ. This will tell you exactly how to request a university page. This is a feature that LinkedIn has with employers called check-in, and so an employer can sign up to check-in when they come to your career fair. Instead of collecting resumes as part of the career fair, students can check in with their LinkedIn profile. So that talks about that resource. And then they also have a higher education channel where they post the latest news and updates out there for higher education.
I have one thing I'd like to add. The copy of the webinar today and the PowerPoint will be available on hepdata.com, and click on webinars, and it should be there. Give us a day or two to get it up. It usually takes us a couple of days to get it up, but we will have it up there for you to download. And Molly, thank you for a great job, and thank you for providing all that fabulous information.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for joining us today, and please feel free to follow up with either John or I if you have any additional questions.